Yeah. Yeah. When Marco went. Looking. Sacrifice him to the fire. Just kidding. Marco. Well, well. No one's here. I see. I ain't no bitch. There we go. Marco's walking around. Cat. Marco. Just trying to get my cat's attention. Sorry about. Hey, Marco. Over here. Yeah, meow. How's it going? He's walking. Oh. Yo, yo. This person watching. How's it going? On a subjective level, of course. We're just big chilling out here by a fire and gonna talk about EFILism, if anybody wishes to talk about EFILism. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be enjoying this campfire with y'all. Basically, I am a bunch of things. Promortalist, which is saying basically death is good for the ones who die. The reason I'm a promortalist is because I'm a negative utilitarian and identity nihilist. Kind of put those together and you basically get promortalism, especially considering in general we have to consume a lot of resources to maintain our life, which is costly to other organisms in terms of their pain. So I'm generally a negative utilitarian, pro-mortalist, antinatalist, EFIList, and I'm a vegan because, gotta prevent animals from being unnecessarily brought into existence. Hello, person on Facebook, how's it going? Can't see your name because it just says Facebook user, but hi, how's it going? I imagine you're in the sentientism group chat, or one of the group chats that I sent it to, or you're from my original group chat, which is EFILism, antinatalism, and suffering-focused ethics, Wisconsin, land of cheese and seasonal depression. It's actually a pretty nice night out, not gonna lie. It's a little chilly, but a little bit of chill in the air makes it perfect for a fire because this the contrast of warm and cold, which is quite enjoyable on the subjective experience. But that's always just because most rooms are always slightly too hot or too cold for me, so having the contrast is always quite lovely. Because usually I'm cold, so having warmth is welcome. And I like the smell of smoke, So you are an EFIList. What's your opinion on how to achieve extinction? Well, when it comes down to it, there's no limit on nuclear yield, and I think the most ethical way to go about things is just to eliminate it as fast as possible. So personally, if I was in charge, I would say, let's just nuke this bitch, Put strategic nukes in certain parts of the world, and then one of two things with the nuke. You either blow everything to high hell, and hope that the radiation and the fact everything's been pretty much biosphere destroyed is going to set things back enough that sentient life will not rise again before the sun kind of like starts to expand and make life uninhabitable on Earth. Or you can do what this one guest on the Antinatalist podcast suggested, and you could try to thrust Earth out of orbit, which would essentially traject us closer to the sun and do the same result of like heating up the planet enough that biosphere would collapse. Option 2, which I don't like as much, but it's interesting, is gene editing, which would be to just essentially target genes of non-keystone species first, and then go on the keystone species later, and just make them so recessive genes activate after a couple generations that make them become infertile, which would essentially wipe out most of the biosphere and, basically eliminate massive amounts of suffering. And then if we really wanted to finish it off, we could just nuke the planet again, which either way we end up nuking the planet. One of them the second option just kind of guarantees that, like, there's not going to be anything there because we're pretty much taking the steps 1 of gene editing and step 2 of clearing the slate once we pretty much clear it for sure it's already cleared. But, those are just kind of the options I see on the board. In terms of like the most likely options that an EFIList would take. There's obviously like other weirder ones, like the Grey Goose scenario. We recently learned how to make biobots a few years ago that like self-reproduce and just kind of swiggle around and collide with each other and then combined and reproduce in weird ways. So if we could, in theory, make those that just consume biomatter, we could make some like Horizon Zero Dawn type bullshit and just like destroy the whole Earth. Not that that would be very pleasant. I wouldn't imagine getting consumed by nanobots would be very fun. So as I said, nuking the Earth seems to be the best option. And I'll let y'all process that for a moment. My cat's just walking around the yard. What is he doing? You can't see him, but maybe he went to the bathroom or something. I don't know. Either way, he's just walking around in the middle of the yard and it's like scratching at the ground and shit. Wouldn't be surprised if he just like took out a small moth or something and is just beating the shit out of it. Because he's running at something right now. Personally, like if we can't convince people to become antinatalists, then it doesn't really matter to begin with, I suppose. Because, unless we go some like fucking John Seed Far Cry 5 route and somehow manage to like get a hold of nukes, which is unlikely, we'd probably nuke first. So I see a link. Fuck. Okay, well, link right there, y'all. See this video when you are free. Okay, I will click the link on my Facebook. I'm sure it'll still be there in the comments. Nuking is not enough. See this video when you're free. No, I have a feeling that you're kind of probably right, that nuking might not be enough to like permanently end all suffering on Earth. Hence why I think gene editing might be a really smart route to go as well. Like making sure we take out like non-keystone species first, which would be like, I don't know, like extincting monarch butterflies and things that like aren't really high in the, and then you go for things that like are essentially keystone species, which would cause mass. And then once that's kind of occurring, I mean, we begin to just kind of eliminate things as much as possible, just going around extincting things, hunting things. I mean, I'm not opposed to hunting. I'm opposed to breeding animals into existence, but death is not bad for the ones who die. Epicureanism, you know, immortalism. So I'm not opposed to hunting things and nuking it to high hell and hopefully projecting our trajectory into the sun more, or you know, hopefully just making the surface radiate. But yeah, I think the best route we can go is make the planet uninhabitable. So like nuking it or like doing something like gray gooing it or whatever. But first, we should probably do some keystone species eliminating just to collapse the biosphere and remove most of the sentient life that we're aware of. Um, Insects and other smaller organisms. I doubt that we're going to be able to just extinct them without like using nukes or anything like that in nature, but you know, we can try, you know, through gene editing. Hey, if they breed like, you know, they say fuck like rabbits, and then you have the gene that makes them infertile. You know, hey, maybe it would work. I have no clue. I'm not a scientist, but hopefully, hopefully something in the future would work. I mean, we literally extincted like what percent of the animals on this planet? I'm sure if we're actually intentionally trying to extinct all life, we can probably do a pretty good job. That's the way I look at it. Like we're accidentally fucking everything. You know, if we intentionally try to fuck things, we in our rather cool power of being a social species can probably do quite the damage if we feel like it. But yeah, I'll 100% watch that video later. I'm a biologist by profession. I would like to speak to you sometime, probably in live. I can bring some other extinctionist people too. Check my page, Pro Extinction. I do extinctionist activism. I will do that. It's on Facebook. It's probably in Facebook, seeing as you're commenting from there. Pro Extinction. Let's take a gander. Pro Extinction. Oh, I already liked that. I already have your page liked actually. Existence is pain with the Mr. Meeseeks. Hell yeah, my dude. Yeah, I like your page already. Yeah, you have some good stuff on there. I see you posting the images like imagine how the first activist in every fight and every justice movement felt. That's what you are feeling about extinctionism right now. Keep fighting, doesn't matter the results, only fight matters. So I see your posts occasionally in the Suffering Focused Wisconsin group that I run. And thank you for posting, by the way. You're the only person who's posted so far, besides Amanda, I believe, with a few other things. And I appreciate it. Any activity is awesome. So you also an EFIList, by the way? Yeah, but I usually don't use that name. No, that's completely fair. I mean, it does have some controversial associations, given Gary's kind of an angry old fuck, and he does have other controversies attached to him, as I've covered on this channel. But I don't think they're as valid as people make them out to be. But yeah, I completely understand why using the term EFIList is controversial. It's just kind of edgy in nature, life spelled backwards, and it's associated with Gary slash Mendham. I like the term preventionism quite a bit, though I have heard the argument that EFILism is a better term than preventionism, just because the focus on evolution is quite important for understanding like the means of how we got here and stuff. And I agree to that because evolution does explain quite a bit. But I think the term preventionism is just a little bit more, I don't know, explicit in the movement's message, preventing suffering, and it just, sounds a lot like less associated with Mendham's controversy. So I like the term preventionism quite a bit, but I don't use it very often just because, I mean, I don't know. I've only heard the term preventionism proposed by like one other person. And then there's the term something antinatalism, which is when it's like focused on animals as well. I like that term, non-something antinatalism or whatever it is. But I can't remember the term, so I'd never use it. it's too long, and my brain's ADHD. I can't remember shit. That's why I'm not good at school, guys. Like I'm a philosophy major, but when it comes down to remembering terminology, it's like I cannot do it. Spanish starts tomorrow, and I'm not looking forward to that. Summer classes, man. They're a bitch. Hmm. Do you have a preference in terms of what you like to call yourself? Do you just like use the term negative utilitarian for the most part, or I mean, because that works just as fine, I guess, as well as like saying ethicist. Because I mean, it is implied if you are a negative utilitarian, you're gonna most likely be an ethicist. I don't know why there would be such. I don't know any negative utilitarians who aren't ethicists. I know ethicists who aren't negative utilitarians, but I don't know a single negative utilitarian who's not an ethicist. So I mean, I guess you could always just say like, "Oh, I'm a negative utilitarian," because that's what I do at school all the fucking time. I don't go like, "As an ethicist, I believe this." I'm like, "As a negative utilitarian, uh, I'm I'm pro euthanasia, blah blah blah," or like whatever, just because I'm not about Gary alone. Ethilism is not very etc. Yeah, but ethilism should be about what can be done, not about lamenting about life. No, I 100% agree. It should be a focus on suffering and what can be done about suffering and like the effective altruism aspects of things. Lamenting about life is somewhat of an important aspect because it appeals to emotion, and people are unfortunately people don't really care about cognitive empathy and like understanding like, oh, my pain's equal to your pain, blah blah blah, all that type of stuff, and it's like this is unnecessary, so therefore an unnecessary imposition of unconsensual harm is kind of not cash money to impose on another being. No one wants to care about that, so like talking about like, oh, work sucks, this is all a grind set, this is a rat race, blah blah blah, all that stuff has its own like appeal, I guess. But I understand exactly what you're talking about. Like, it's the lamenting about life is not what ethilism should be focusing on. It should be focusing on like the argument. It's like veganism should be about animals, but they made it about health and environment. Yeah, exactly. It should be just about the ethics of bringing animals into existence, and if you're that's my case. I'm an ethical. Sorry, I'm a vegan because I believe it's wrong to bring animals into existence. I'm not against hunting, but I'm a vegan because like I'm like a vegan in action because I can't be arsed to go hunting. I don't really care about hunting. It's just too much effort. So I'm not going to go and get my meat via hunting. And when it comes down to it, I'm not going to purchase animals from store because that's supply and demand, which contributes to animals being unnecessarily brought into existence. So I'm basically vegan, but I'm not technically vegan. But yeah, we should be making arguments for veganism from different ethical perspectives, trying to, and like stuff like that. Not like, oh man, you can lose 20 pounds in 3 weeks on a vegan diet, and oh my gosh, it's gonna prevent climate change. It's like, okay, CO2 in the atmosphere, what does that do? CO2 is bad because it makes things warm. What's so bad about things being warm? Well, warmth is bad because things don't like it when it's warm. Okay, so when it comes down to it, it's just about the things that are alive. So it has nothing to do with this mystical thing. You know, they have jerk off the environment and are just like, oh, the whimsical mother nature really cares about what we're doing. No, it's just about the sentient creatures that inhabit the planet. And so I don't this whole environmental thing, yeah, it's problematic. Veganism should be focused on ethics because when it starts getting into the environment thing, then it's like people start glorifying the whole natural order of things and stuff, and that just gets problematic really fucking fast. It's just like it's just being like praising evolution, like, oh, like we look at the sea turtles and should say about ethics, and so should ethilism. Everything should say about ethics. What really matters is what's right and wrong, what ought to be done, not about the aesthetics of the movement. So I use anti-speciesism and extinctionism as terms, than veganism and ethilism. Okay, that makes sense actually. I should probably start using those terms as well, just because I mean, I'm not explicitly vegan because I'm not deontologically based, and I'm more of a consequentialist. It's kind of funny. I'm like Peter Singer, but like my reasons for are still a little bit different than him. But I'm like much. Um, and yeah, ethilism, you use the term extinctionism. Yeah, that's probably a lot better. I mean, just because the less association with Amendum, which I love Amendum, don't get me wrong. Like in the last 2 months, I've probably donated like $105, $110 to Gary just because I like his content and stand the the term ethylism just not being very descriptive, and plus there's a lot of controversies, and yeah, it's just not the best term to be using. Well, yeah, exactly my thoughts. I think we could be best friends. Hell yeah, my dude. I'm glad to be acquaintances slash friends with most people. I'm a little bit of a psychopath, so when it comes down to it, it's really difficult for me to become like really close friends with comes to being associates. I'm pretty good at being like really well associated with people and friendly people, and I like people in general if I get to know their personalities. So I think we could be friends for sure. I've only ever really gotten like extraordinarily close to one person in my life, and unfortunately they committed suicide a couple months ago. So that was big sad, and still is big sad. But when it comes down to it, I've only got really close to one person in my life, and that's for John Blush, you know. I'm just saying. So when it comes down to it, like I'm a chill dude. I'm a chill dude, but you know, I keep myself kind of. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends, and I have even more associates. But when it comes to like really close friends that I just can like talk to about like anything, that's a pretty close knit circle, I guess. Though when it comes to online, I'm willing to like pretty much talk about anything, I guess. I guess it really just depends like what I mean by like best friend. I guess like hmm. No, I'm sure I could probably become best friends with a lot of antinatalists because my qualifications for becoming a best friend are based on respect, I guess. And there's a lot of people in the antinatalist community that I respect. So I'm sure we could become best friends. Yeah, you know what? You're not wrong. We could become best friends. It just depends how well I get to know you and how much I begin to respect you. And I'm sure I'd respect you quite a bit if you're an ethical person. Hey, softcore apples here. Howdy. How's it going, my dude? Another person says hi. Also, no one's names are different when it comes to Facebook, but I assume that this is a different person, or they're saying hi at softcore apple. Either way, hello everybody, and everybody I imagine is saying hello to each other as well. It's like a little kumbaya greeting session. So how's it going, softcore apple? Soft apple core. Wrong way. I have dyslexia. I don't actually have dyslexia, but I might. I wouldn't be fucking surprised. How's it going, soft apple core? On a subjective level, of course. You know, we all know how I feel about the objective. Everything is miserable and sad. We just don't know it because we're born into misery and sadness. Well, we can know it, we just can't feel it. Awesome. Okay, cool. I will. Well, his previous comment for the name of his group would be um I'm gonna try to pull it up. Hello, do. Here is the previous comment. So check on the page pro extinction. So I'm guessing the Instagram is probably pro extinction as well. And our boy Soft Apple Core is subjectively drunk. Fuck yeah. I'm subjectively stoned. Once I'm off work, I'm subjectively stoned. It's just the way it is. When I'm off the clock, I'm ready to rock. Ah, here we go. I tried turning off the Wi-Fi and just connecting to my hotspot. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Facebook user is straight edge for tonight, sober, don't want to get pulled over, living in, I'm trying to rhyme because I like to rhyme. I don't know. I can't think of any sobriety rhymes that are involved being in pain. But nonetheless, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope your sobriety can end at a convenient time in the future. Speaking of sobriety, though I am stoned, I'm beginning to feel sober. I haven't smoked since the beginning of the stream. It's been about an hour. So my vape needs some juice. We're gonna fill up my vape first. How do y'all handle seeing all the natalism and theism everywhere in society every day? That's a good question. How do I handle it? Well, I guess I try to be as productive as possible by like talking on like live streams like this. I do activism a little bit. Just doing my part to make myself feel like I'm doing things helps quite a bit. In terms of the fact that it seems like it's not really doing anything, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. The fact that it seems like it's not going anywhere and that it's just kind of like this perpetual climbing of like me going out and doing activism and people looking at the sign and like mouthing birth is a catalyst of all suffering and death and having like a what the fuck look on their face and then just continuing driving, and it just seems like no one's really being convinced. How do I handle that? Antidepressants is one thing. Another thing is antipsychotics for my major depressive disorder. That's another thing. Um, Smoking, another thing. But all these things kind of were like perform antinatalistic. Well, the antidepressants and stuff are recent, but smoking has been a coping mechanism I've used for since I've been 18, I guess. Don't recommend using drugs as a coping mechanism. Other than that, I guess I hang out with friends quite a bit, but even that has its own drawbacks because they know they're not antinatalists, so it's kind of just like, uh, I'm hanging out with them to distract myself, but even the distractions, I realize I should be doing my duty, and so it's like I feel bad for distracting myself. So, I'm not the best person for advice in regards to this, but because I'm generally the only thing that keeps me from being like a pretty much toxic as fuck person who should be having like a meltdown is solely the fact that I have like basically antisocial traits which make me have very low neuroticism, which basically just means I don't have very much my anxiety that I have and my depression that I have don't manifest in like a very strong feeling type of way. It's more just like a cognitive look on life that is really negative. But I don't like feel my depression. It doesn't like drag me down or anything like that. Nor do I, when I get anxious, do I like feel like on edge or anything. I like, maybe my body gets a little tense and I like, like move, like vibrate my leg a lot, like tap my feet and shit. But other than that, it's just like I don't really like feel the anxiety. Have I ever been suicidal? Yes, I have in the past, and I am like actively like. Have I been suicidal? Yes, like very, very, very suicidal in high school, and I have never not been like suicidal since then in terms of like thinking about death and like, I'm a pro-mortalist, so it's like, I actively want to die. My best friend took her own life too on February 7th, so it's been like 3 months now. Life's been exceptionally difficult, the last couple months again. Not as difficult as in high school, but quite a bit difficult. So I have been suicidal before, but have never attempted to take my own life because, as I haven't really said this on this stream, but as I always say to people in real life, that if I were to ever attempt suicide, it would not be an attempt, it would be a success. So, as I said, I'm a psychopath. So, when it comes down to it, if I really want to go for something, I go for it. So, I wouldn't fail. It would be a messy mess and I would be gone. So, sorry to hear. Actually, my best friend died too in March. I'm sorry you had to go through that, my friend. It's really rough to have to deal with the death of a friend, especially one that you're really close to and can confide in and feel like you have a deeper connection to than other people, a best friend, like someone like that you lose. It's a hard burden to bear, especially on one you feel like you have to bear it as like a duty. It just it weighs on us, and I'm sorry to hear that for you. Yeah, if you ever need to talk, my dude, by the way, revenge or anything like that, I'm pretty good at being a person to vent to. Know a lot of psychology stuff, kind of my fun little hobbies. I like to learn psychology. And, being psychopathic, I have a tendency to be kind of a nice wall to vent upon. I can give good advice from a pretty solid, neutral perspective. I can generally be like a wall/emotional thing to just kind of vent upon, release frustrations and or sadness upon. And, you can reliably assume that I myself will not be pained in an intense way from it. Because a lot of people don't want to like spread their sadness around and stuff like that, but when it comes to me, I'm a sadist, so it's like I can't really affect people over the internet, but you're welcome, my dude. I'm always glad to help people out. But when it comes down to it, yeah, I'm a little bit of a sadist, so it comes down to it, it's not like I can like hurt you by like knowing things, and I'm a good source to vent upon because when it comes down to it, I have a lot of cognitive empathy, but in terms of emotional empathy, I lack it to a certain extent. That's quite notable. So I don't feel sadness, at least not in any intense, notable way when hearing other people's things that are, I mean, if I really want to, especially nowadays, if I like get like stoned and I really like think about how another person could be feeling and then connect it to like something in my own life, then potentially I can kind of feel sadness for another person that I don't have a really strong connection to. But, you know, it's good to vent upon with other people. Do you not cry that often then? Yeah, before my friend Shamira died, I basically only cried. The only times I remember crying in my life are like when I was a little kid, basically. And then when I was 10, I cried at the movie Hachi, that one about the dog in Japan or whatever. And then other than that, since the age of 10, I'm 23 right now, I've only cried outside of my friend's death. Because since her death, I've cried maybe like 5 or 6 times. So I've cried quite a bit since her death, more than I have in like almost all my life, I think, combined. But when it comes down to it, yeah, in the last 10 years outside my friend's death, I've only cried 3 times. Twice while high from appreciating beauty, and once from sadness when I was watching a documentary. I was tripping balls on 7 tabs of LSD once, and there was a really awesome looking sunset. It was during the fall. The trees had no leaves on them, and all the branches were bare, and they were like wiggling, like in the sunset, like little tentacles and tendrils, like creeping into the deep purple of the sky. And I just thought it looked like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in the world, and a tear kind of just rolled down my face, especially considering I had some morbid yet interesting thoughts about like making a movie and stuff, like a cool movie about like a psychedelic trip of like a yeah, I'm not gonna get into it, but basically, yeah, beautiful moment for me, and I had a little tear go down my face because I was appreciating the creativity of the mind and the beauty of the world that we can experience. And yeah, that was one time that I cried within the last 10 years, just from appreciating beauty. The other time I cried was watching this really cool animated fight in an anime. Really cringe, my dude. Not even gonna lie. I cried from appreciating art, the effort that went into a fight scene in Demon Slayer season 1. Just the fight when he like cuts through this one dude's head and it has like really strong like skin. You can't like be fucking broken through. But he like meditates in like this certain like form like based off his like father's like fucking breathing technique, and then he basically just like cuts through this dude, and then like fucking has like the most beautiful animation as it does so. And I was just like, yo, man, that probably took so many hours and works from like so many people just to like make this one scene right here. That's fucking awesome, and I am appreciating it. And I was stoned as shit, by the way. But yeah, that was the only time that I basically nothing to worry about with that. I respect that. I cried too much. It's exhausting, really. No, I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, that you have like that much emotional build up inside yourself. I mean, it's good to release those things, and I imagine it feels liberating to do so. In comparison to me, where it's just kind of like bottled up emotions that never really express themselves, besides frustration and occasional like depressive moods and stuff like that. But nothing very vibrant going on inside me. And the third time I cried would be I was watching a video on YouTube by Wendigoon about all is quiet on the Western Front. And oh boy, does World War One hit a home with me. It's just I hate war. War is brutal. What's one of the only things is like able to sadden me is the concept that people unknowingly brainwashed throw their lives away for a cause that they have know nothing about and basically just die because some rich fucker wants to get rich. So war is brutal and it fucks with me. So that documentary got to me just because it's about like a bunch of people that like had no fucking clue and were hyped up and went to the most brutal battles in history basically, and most of them didn't come out. And if they did, they came out with major fucking levels of PTSD and shell shock and stuff. So, yeah, when it came down to it, a little tear came down my face that day. I was just like, damn, bro, pour one out for the homies in the Western Front. My bad. It's insane to think hundreds of millions have died from fucking war. Makes my blood boil. Yeah, basically, man. And like all of it pretty much is just because of like religion or power. It's really nothing else. It's just religion and greed. Wanting land or wanting money or wanting resources and or religion. And usually the religion can have fucking stems or just power also. It's a lot of people just using religion as a kind of like facade of why they're actually invading. It's disgusting indeed. It's probably the reason why we have so many antinatalists in the Middle East. It's probably just because people have kind of woken up to the fact that like Islam is such a fucking brutal religion. Unfortunately, it hasn't really quite woken up in the West that Christianity is also a brutal religion that just has its tendrils creeping in and poisoning us in a far more subtle form through conservatism and the stifling of progress. Pretty much. Western Christianity is pretty much just self-help. Yeah, you're not wrong. And unfortunately, this self-help stuff has a real high price because coping with pain's good if you realize that pain still has really significant amount of value that ought to be avoided at all costs, basically. When you start to get to like the whole point of like really stoic and woo-wah about pain, like, yeah, man, it's just like a sensation in the universe, man, just like anything else, bro. Like, we're just atoms colliding with each other, and like, when it comes down to it, I know Buddhist monks during like protest times used to like set themselves on fire, bro, and like they just like dwelled in the pain, bro, and they didn't care. And we just need to be just like them, man, because like pain is just like in the mind. So like yeah, if you get to like that point or like anywhere near that point, then we have problems because then you know the Western self-help stuff kind of becomes toxic and it's like now we're ignoring other people's pain and just telling them to like you know get past it or like and stuff like that. But when it comes to like the whole like general self-help, yeah, I'm all for self-help. Like I mean, I have a $1,000 lamp that produces yeah, man, silly. But yeah, I have like $1,000 lamp that just produces like a frequency of red light that is good for seasonal depression, inflammation, back pain, and stuff like that. So I'm all about self-help and self-love. But at the same time, you know, copiism, I forgot the term people use, uh, yeah, whatever, copiism basically becomes copium. Yeah, taking the copium drug is all fine and dandy until you know you start taking you know your pain points from other people's accounts, you know, to pay for your copium, and that's where things kind of become problematic. And we're always doing that. The issue more or less is, I guess the metaphor should be monitoring your intake of other people's pain points, because we're all stealing, we're all grabbing from other people's baskets in order to keep our baskets sustained. It's the unfortunate reality of life. But the thing we have to monitor is how much of that we're doing, and if we're doing it excessively, and if we're trying to help people out more than we're grabbing. If we're doing our janitorial duties, as Gary says, and Amanda, or if we're just being parasites. So that's what really matters. All this self-help, and none of them really talk about suicide very much, don't they? It's kind of funny because like the best way we can help ourselves to relieve most amount of pain. They have all these all these Eastern books like leaking in about like Westernism and stuff like that, about how like we have to like become stoic and relieve our desires, and or just like recognize life is pain, that we don't really exist and we're all just connected and blah blah blah. But at the same time, there's none of this stuff about like, oh hey, life is pain. Guess what? You can end that in one simple, easy method. Late dying. But yeah, I don't know, man. You would think there would be a lot more talks of suicide in Eastern religion. There are in a way, because Eastern religion is like one of the only like types of religion that'll accept starvation as a method out. Like Jainism, for example. Jainism's not pro, but I guess neutral on suicide, so long as you do it through starvation. They don't like, they're still religious, so they're deontological based. That's certainly the problem with all religion is like a deontological leaning instead of consequentialism. So they're not going to let you just like kill yourself in Jainism, but they will allow you to like starve yourself to death. So like at least like, at least like passive dying, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. So like at least Jainism has like passive dying, I mean, some religions are kind of okay-ish. Prohibition of voluntary euthanasia for everyone is worse than slavery to me. No, I mean 100% in a way. I mean, from the purely consequentialist standpoint, it is a form of slavery. You're keeping people into existence, and given the fact that society is capitalist, you're going to be forced to work in order to survive. So it basically is forced labor in a way. It's essentially slavery. Yeah, it basically is slavery if you just take a step back and realize the implications of what type of society we live in. Basically, if everything in society was provided for us, then it wouldn't quite be slavery. It would be a form of like pseudo mental slavery, but it wouldn't be like, at least like as bad as like a slavery. But when it comes down to it, yeah, we quite literally must work in order to survive in a capitalist society. And they're basically saying, no, you're not allowed to leave once you're here, and you had no right to even ask to be here. So yeah, it is basically slavery in a way, and it comes with every single pain that you will ever experience in your life, ever. So it's a human right that the medical industry think it has the power to control as a medical model. Basically, medical industry thinks it's power to control as a medical model. Yeah, I kind of want to talk to one of my professors about it, because he's like, in the bioethics department and has like some stuff about like, he's gonna be my person I do my final paper on next semester. Well, when I start next semester, I guess, which is gonna be about antinatalism and negative utilitarianism and EFILism, promortalism, stuff like that, and like the implications of it as well as probably like long-termism and stuff like that, transhumanism, something like a 10-page paper or some shit. But he's basically bioethics Christian. I don't think he's for euthanasia, or at least he might not be. I'm gonna try to get his opinions on some of that stuff and try to hash it out with him. But yeah, I'm quite curious what he has to say. Hmm. Because yeah, I don't know why these people have such pro-life things. It has to be like a mix of money and just brainwashing. I don't even think that a lot of these people really think about the deep implications of like what they're doing. They just have like a thing of like they have like this pro-life thing, I guess. I guess that's the best way to describe the medical industry. It's not anti-suffering, it's pro-life. They don't care if they have to inflict like gratuitous torture per se to keep a person alive. At least not in a lot of parts of the world. Well, some parts of the world, I'm not going to shit on all the medical industries because a lot of parts of the world are still consequentialist and they won't like do that. But I think in the whole, the medical industry is pretty much just pro-life rather than pro-life and pro-profit rather than pro and pro removing suffering or preventing suffering. Yeah, it's tragic, but it is what it is. Have a good night, homie. It's even right that the medical industry thinks has the power. Uh, have I been muted this whole time? Oh, well, I've been just narrating about how my cat likes to walk around with me at night. So, well, other way around. Well, I like to walk with him. He likes it when I walk with him. He's a little bit of a spunky guy. He quite enjoys it when I follow him around. Marco. He's sneaking up on me. Do you want to go inside? I think he might. Oh, okay. Is anybody still watching me, or did everybody kind of fall asleep? I know my voice is apparently kind of relaxing, so I wouldn't be surprised if the soothing voice plus the pause kind of just lulled you.